We're ready when you send it.
Okay, I think Meech getting water real quick. And is Fleming here?
I'm here.
Oh.
Oh, there we go. Is everybody ready to start? I'm just gonna send them Macy. Okay.
Yeah, we're good to go.
Cool. I sent it. Let me know when you are ready.
Oh, we're ready.
Cool. Anybody not ready? Sweet. Contention one is stability. U.S. arms sales promote a militarized approach to responding to cartels, which encourages massive HR violations. Mundo 18 after a decade of military equipment, human rights violation remain high. The voices call for anti-policy warfare focuses on making community investment. The war on drugs has escalated violence where criminal groups police soldiers committed crimes. Violence has led to forced migration, data shows illegal export of weapons from the United States and Mexico is at a high time. Takes cease depending on the acquisition of weapons to achieve reduction of violence. The United States plays a primary role as a principal source of arms to Mexico. Trump could have devastating effects with respect to violence in Mexico. Firearms have been using crimes. This militarized approach risks state collapse. In 19, Mexico faces the risk of becoming a failed state. The government is in civil war with cartel states losing corruption, breaking down the relationship between government and its population, encouraging local militia, sort of military deterioration. The drug war is escalating, creating a spillover effect in the United States. Corrupt tax revenue creates a cyclical effect when the government cannot afford to pay for services, incentivizing population to support illegal economies, allowing farmers to fall victim to cartels. Farmers turn down to resist ad hoc militia, add further chaos, speculative ability to make gains against the cartels. Suggest that the Mexican government is no longer in control of parts of its country. The indicator of the military's breakdowns and deterioration of discipline, glowing number of human rights violations. Military further deteriorate, lack of control over forces, and against an erosion of the chain of command. Cartels provides incentives to defend. Crisis in Mexico causes terror, spreads instability throughout the region. Jones Roy 17. What happens in Mexico tends to spill over. All the problems might not be economic. Weakened economy could pose security threats to the United States. Economic problems, including increased inequality, fuel public discontent, and social unrest, and heightened conflict between social groups, of which many Mexico's democracy on made policy watch list for crime and corruption, political instability. One country hurts its entire region by disrupting trade, requiring all countries to spend more defense, reducing the regional amount, spend on education, keeping capital discontent. Mexico will meet more angry armed people close to border struggling. Mexico will be less capable of managing pollution. This will cause Mexico's political environment to deteriorate to the status of failing state potential environments for terrorism. Latin American insecurity causes WMD attacks. Ward and 14 Caribbean states are constrained by lack of financial human resources to the high cost of modern technologies, prohibiting the region's security vulnerabilities are exacerbated by its geography being a major shipping is a major cause of vulnerability. Island geography poses security challenges. Security problems include gaps in border management, custom towards stability. This increases the threat of WMD entering the supply chain from secure border facilities designed for the United States. The destined for the United States. Traffickers dividing mechanism include U.S. Caribbean drug interdiction. The risk could be terrorism from the WMD, extinction, haze, and 18 nuclear terrorism, independent nuclear warrior, warring system fail, strategic miscalculation, decision-making failure, and active nuclear terrorism could precipitate a chain of events leading to a massive exchange of nuclear weapons. A diverse set of non-state actors engaged in terrorist activity. Some have argued that the funding demanding exceeds the capacity, but even at the highest levels in small numbers, actors already exhibit the motivation possible gas to become nuclear armed. Ackerman identified 5 such violent non-state actors who already conducted such engineering projects. Although the skill, financial, and material requirements present a high bar, they're certainly reachable. Al-Qaeda, IS exhibiting capacity in the past is not prologue. Incredibly diverse and motivated terrorist groups existed already, including apocalyptic religious, psychopathological, masculine, cults, nuclear command control, communication system may play an independent and anticipated role, leading to an event or nuclear war. At least 5 distinct nuclear opponent axes of conflict are evident. U.S. Europe, or K conflict, China, Taiwan, China, Japan, China, Russia, and U.S. conflict. The non-state nuclear terrorist act can impel nuclear armed state to escalate against other non-states. Believe that target stand by sponsor the attack. This outcome could trigger nuclear war. Some experts distance the probability so remote yet the history of nuclear terrorism globally and Northeast Asian region suggests otherwise. Uncontrolled violence in Mexico draws U.S. into global proxy conflicts independently, collapses U.S.-Mexican cooperation. Mets and 14 violence in Mexico may expand northward the United States supports America to use military power. Cartels miscalculation, right? An American target chance of miscalculation mount this could move to the killing of U.S. officials. Outright terrorism violence could spread via narco traffickers to terrorist groups. Hezbollah might track the United States pulling narco traffickers into a transnational proxy war between America, Iran, and Venezuela. Using the United States military on Mexican soil could collapse and security cooperation, damage the bilateral relationship. That triggers arms races that escalate havoc. And 10, we face increasing threat from drug trafficking that's morphing into an insurgency. Telling Mexico's cartel insurgent from the north revenue base, a crucial step to the Mexican insurgency would affect America's role in the world. Like American side of the border, breakdown of security will cause many in the United States to question the importance of foreign policy ventures. How switch the southern border become a primacy concern. Nevers, allies, and opportunity adversaries to adjust inward looking America. Disruptive arms races is the result. That causes nuclear war. Chronic 15 threat is nuclear war. The more states agree, the probability before mad new nuclear states go through its institution. Pure was the lack of secure second right capability. More both might believe there's incentive to strike first. Let's say with the nuclear banks might believe in splendid first strike capability. Might fear use them or lose them pressures due to reciprocal fear, surprise attack. One might say war in the belief that war is inevitable. Even a world of mad, there's still a risk when it's not seen to resort to rationality. Courage leaders might use limit nuclear war, result in devastating nuclear exchange. Enforcing human rights conditions on Mexican arms sales solves escalation and creates political reforms that promote accountability. Epstein 19. U.S. weapons are instead feeling violence. And Mexico has 20% of the guns have gone missing. The U.S. is fueling Mexico back the violence by providing the gun thing used by criminals in the corrupt power. And limiting access to guns may reduce violence in Mexico. A study found that homicides rose with access to American weapon compared to those without a cutting off access. It makes it more difficult for criminal groups. Washington should be used to lay laws have been loosely enforced. The United States has more leverage, so other countries can match the United States. As a strategic approach, Mexico has received $1.3 billion in training equipment. The United States will see influence backing over security reforms will signal the United States getting serious about human rights in Mexico. And this change in approach facilitates winning hearts and minds. That's key to solve the root of cartels. Crit 17. The government can't defeat the cartels militarily. Deployment attacks lead to greater violence because newly empowered faction do battle for the old crime lords, turf police, and military often complicit to tactics releasing more on U.S. counterinsurgency, but little if any anticipated winning hearts and mind. The use of the Mexican army as a law enforcement tool has led to a spike in human rights violation. Armed forces shoot first and at special level. Patrols are carried out with armored trucks and helicopters. Little chance to get a recon operation or hold face-to-face meeting with civilians. Elements essential successful police force. There's been no success with the militarization strategy. Focus on narcotics and no look sufficient. Lopping off many tentacles will require a more proactive approach. Depending on fixed position viable for winning a guerrilla war. Authorities need to contact with the civilian population, make the justice system work, reduce the impunity rates for homicides, punish corrupt personnel, and take about organized crime networks. Thus, the plan: the United States federal government should reduce foreign military sales and direct commercial sales to Mexico procured without establishing accountability for human rights violations and corruption by military and police units. Contention to his modeling. Corruption undermines Mexico's environmental leadership throughout Latin America. Montalvo 15. Response to climate change is about power by tackling corruption, promoting greater government transparency. Climate change, corruption, opaque government are dangerous. The real test for Mexico will be other way. Climate finances is invested by accountable institution. Mexico government passed a landmark climate change law, and Mexico's reform anti-corruption climate change. We see the blueprint for other developing countries to face the greatest threats. Solution to Mexican corruption or model. That's Anderson 19. If favoritism, corruption minimized, Mexico will be able to model for other governments looking to restructure corruption within Mexico has already been a major concern. Mexico needs a safe environment where the police are not corrupt, and so are their environmental laws. Better enforcement is needed. That's OECD. Then 12. Mexico is one of the most biologically diverse countries. The world's proactive policies area set example for other countries. National program for hydrological services provides policy incentive to owners. Mexico needs to strengthen enforcement existing legislation protect against illegal logging, species trafficking, and the plan stimulates political reforms that create systems of accountability that resolve corruption. AFSC 16. Arms sales are a pivotal element of U.S. policy. The government is responsible for abuse of human rights. Arms sales escalate violence between the state and criminal organizations. And a system Mexican military and police until Mexico demonstrates full accountability for past abuse, bringing those responsible to justice, establish effective investigative justice mechanisms for state abuse and corruption, and U.S. arms sales fully implement the law that provides U.S. assistance to foreign military and environmental damage in Latin America ruins planetary regulation and imperils humanity. Anti-corruption is key. Rodriguez and 19. Each nation believes that they are dealing with a problem. They guard their own home, not one that affects the entire planet. The Amazonia depends on conservation being regulated. The hydrological cycle, climate, the jungles, then conservation demands in Venezuela. Money concession have been granted Colombian jungles of concern for deforestation. The ecosystem's greatest values, the wetlands, because the greatest biodiversity and the protection against erosion. Mexico, Yucatan mangroves have been affected with essential for bird species. Economic activities have led to reduction of forest and condemnation of natural resources without taking into account the fragility of the ecosystem, which are losing ability to regulate themselves. Latin American wetland destruction causes extinction from biodiversity and freshwater depletion. Invisible thresholds true for wetlands. That's Penson 16. Wetlands vital for humanity. Conserve the scarce and essential elements of water. 64% have been lost, making imperative that we conserve what remains. Only 3% of fresh water. It's impossible to overemphasize the importance to all living beings. Water is finite. Wetlands are the largest freshwater reserves in the world. The cradle of all forms of life. Each one adapts to the enormous diversity of the world. The century Andes feature the high altitude both those high plains of Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela. 5,000 species of plants grew the high plains that regulate water cycles. So essential to human life. Brazil creates crop largest, most biodiverse marsh in the world. These expansive are extremely important to migratory board. These are free ecosystems must be defended and protected. We need wetlands and hydrocycle disruption causes extinction. Hugman 14. The hydrological cycle plays a prominent role within Earth and is crucially important to Earth, including human society interaction between the climate, hydrology, land use occurs by controlling evapotranspiration, leaking energy, water, climate fluxes. To highlight the importance for future climate change. Defo causes extinction, overwhelms resilience. William 17. That brought the universal consequence of deforestation jeopardizes existence. Domino effect includes extinction of biodiversity, change in climate. Domino effect will cause the extinction of many species, and through poverty and pollution, human extinction can be inevitable. The only way to halt this is to solve every case what is so possible. Soil erosion empirically causes societal collapse. Speech at all 19. Soil degradation accelerates runoff erosion and eutrophication. Hypoxia. All of human depends on soil resources that frequently ignored. Ultimate natural resource gives it unparalleled services. The dark matter of the earth, civilization, society lives off soil. Studies that link to clients of civilization, soil loss, extinction happen to both soil and civilization. It would be unforgivable if we fail to respond. Unambiguous actions key. Crawford 97. Human rights can be supported to other foreign policy objectives. Sanctual be effective only to the extent that donor governments implement regular political wills, compromise for restriction or partial weak to counterplan interest. Affirmations require restrictive measures not implemented wholeheartedly related to domestic politics, little other than symbolic impact.
We're gonna take some prep. 8 minutes. Good for cross-ex?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Great. Yeah. So the first advantage that you've cited, it says Mexico is a failed state. It defines a bunch of things about why it's at war with cartels. I guess, why does the plan reducing those sales mean that the cartels are like suddenly like go away?
It's not that they're a failed state now. Our argument is that rule of law is becoming worse. That the top of the card said Mexico faces the risk of becoming a failed state, which is to say that our argument is not reverse causally. We make it failed to successful. Our argument is that inevitably it will become a failed state as rule of law breaks down. There are enclaves where cartels.
Yeah, I have a question. So what sales does the plan reduce? Like
FMS and DCS to
are
Mexico.
existing sales, like are contracts that exist right now, do those get deleted by the
Yeah.
plan? Those get
Yeah.
deleted by the plan?
Yeah, not like we're not going to say a substantial number, obviously. Like
Okay.
Yeah, but like existing contracts do get terminated as
They
all
do get
existing
terminated.
contracts are terminated. Well, not a substantial amount.
that's most
Yeah,
likely how
substantial
reduction occurs. We don't think that's a good basis for competition, but like normal means
Yeah.
for how arms sales are reduced is
Sure.
cancellation of
The
contracts.
card that you're reading, so your internal link to this modeling business is like just corruption writ large, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's corruption writ large. It's about, our evidence is pretty specific to government transparency and the roles cartels and kind of, recycled revenue has on the perception of Mexico.
Oh, wait, can you explain that more? Like, what do you mean? Like, why does Mexico doing this like result in other countries, or sorry, why is environmental damage in Latin America key to like the rest of the world?
So our evidence is great. It says that Latin America, and it says Mexico itself is one of the most biologically diverse countries in the world, or places in the world. Obviously, there's places like the Amazon rainforest, but also our evidence is specific to the cycling that occurs and the tipping points. It says that Mexico is kind of a touchstone for both those species, but also hydrological like cycling globally.
So your evidence says like the Mexican government is doing like flagrant abuses of human rights. I guess, like, how does that result? Like, how does the plan result in them stopping doing things like forced disappearance, torture, extrajudicial killings, etc.?
Well,
Yeah, that's what the condition on the plan does. If without Mexico,
No, but the government
establishing-
already has like weapons.
Well,
like
they have weapons, but they need continuous training and equipment
Wait, can I
for
ask
the
a
Epstein
question?
evidence.
So your evidence indicates that small arms and light weapons are the biggest indicator of instability, but it also says that 87% of them are from illicit arm transfers from the United States. How
It
does the
doesn't.
AFL
It doesn't say that.
It doesn't say that. It says most of those arms transfer comes from the Mexican government themselves once they get the United States, or once they get it from the US. Also, even if the cartels have illegal weapons, it's a question of the militarization of the police force, because our internal link is not just there are no guns, but it's about the change the police has vis-a-vis the cartels.
Okay, the Greensburg evidence, the line says illicit arms are trafficked back into Mexico, fueling violence. 87% of firearms seized in Mexico could be traced back to the US, referring to the illicit arms transfer.
Yeah, and then read the Grinberg card, but it also says the illicit arms transfer comes from the US government. Like it's not that they're bought in companies within the US, it's that they're shipped to Mexico and then the government literally sells them.
Wait, where's the line that says it's the government saying illicit arms sales?
It doesn't matter because our internal links about police having weapons.
we're gonna take little more prep. Okay, 7:02. And Simon will send it out.
Okay, it should be sending. One sec. The doc's uploading to the email chain. It'll send in a sec. The order is 8 off case. 8, and then so first advantage, second advantage. Sorry, the doc's taking a while to attach, but it's sending. Okay, the doc sent. Let me know when you'll have it. Y'all get it? Everyone good? Sounds good. Cool. First is T. Substantial means a reduction of 25%. TOC at all 95 duty provides a requirement for substantial reduction of major defense programs. The program here to require major system substantial reduction defined as reduction of 25% or more of the total value of the contracts under the program. At least the plan doesn't reduce 25% or more of FMS reference sort of charts. Vote -1 limits any other definition opens the floodgates of hundreds of apps ability to do quality research to precision or evidence setting TOD definition new apps or by the make it possible negative make it disclosure 30 minutes before the round solves. The Russia fill-in decide arms sales market is zero sum crucial the Russian expansion there limit now versus 19. Why Putin looting arms sales market share export hit selling losing India they've had to play Chile makes rebound like the arms sales reflecting events in allies of whereas the CN Iran can compensate and plan lease supply back in for Russia to exploit about 70% arms whatever about after resources is object dependency for the one subject facility agreement and relation Russia everything everyone risk nuclear war 5 or 16. De-escalation doctrine to lower the nuclear threshold when any nuke is used as possible to escalate increase dramatically and we try to spread much modernization committee factor again defense spending cuts and hinder effort and next is the counterplan. The United States federal government should require that for future foreign military sales and commercial sales, New Mexico should be required to establish accountability for human rights violation and corruption by military and police units. Next is the sales pick. The United States federal government should maintain existing foreign military sales and direct commercial sales of arms to Mexico and entirely offset the arms sales with clean tech development efforts, cancel over the sales, modify sales, but maintaining them completely compete and solve the aftermath 5. Option to rent transfer defense without a contract includes suspended delivery termination of contracts. Cancellation contract deliveries maybe at any time that all government contracts are to cancel service be modified or terminated by the executive branch but resetting offsetting the offset resulting clean tech development reduces emission act 1916 offset help reduction tech clean coal biofuels of nuclear wind solar power the amount of defense partner with a company special need advanced biomass economic asset dependent biomass plan with advanced biofuels company looking at expanding national presence particularly range or by partner with an energy development for construction of wind capacity that weighs polluted air is deadly omnipresent currently improvements are sufficient WHO 18 9 air contact with high level pollutant air pollution threatens all but the most marginalized by the product so defined particles by the Netherlands that have disease animated production it costs 4.2 million deaths in Asia Africa Eastern Mediterranean Europe and America clean fuels tech increasing importance are not keeping pace with population growth causing it heart disease stroke obesity disease and lung cancer. Next is T contracts. Affirmative sales are contractual agreements legally only become a sale when they're signed a contract and releasing sales that are ending the contract you can do that you can't do that if no letter of offer and acceptance in the first ATSU 19 so examine the FMS letter of offer and send the LOA document agreement the US to offer the item they offered to propose a contractual agreement in the form of a way to request the respondent document over offer to sell the respondent the person must submit an LOA under an FMS the US to sell the person LOA accepting this agreement to contract action and not to pay without the deposit and direct commercial sales of arms or contracts. ESU 19 is the person defense order used to contract foreign government entry to direct combat and reduce means it's a current quantity accepting is a prerequisite and reduction guy 90 anyway. Plain meaning word was refused to accept equivalent reduce something to something and not accept and precondition determination reduce to define a diminished number of volition the plan prevents a future increase that expand limit near infinite number of possibility future sales. I can't predict such any two thing class expertise voter it creates more hazard to add non-topical planes with the negative trap partner with uncertain sales a spec not specific agent and the one AC is the voting issue for fairness and education allows the 2AC re-specification when it's like of agent argument justifies presumption the USFG is not an actor the stocks is said. Defense stocks is stable during COVID. Thornton 4.2. Executive rates include NYSE. The bodies of war industry business the use of reports Corona. Executive investigate keep up with the years returning where individually 367 distinct deal during a margin. It's above average business for 5 continues under up to rate and general 90s north of grown occupied pushing sales into security. The buy chain restriction creates entirely negative market reaction. Taco 12. Unanticipated developments have sustained redistributive gov orders. National expectation account for Taco reaction to export restriction reaction to and has a report where the policy change market effect reaction to the name with a dash hope for easing arms sector policy and that impact is the global war track in 20. The question of her defense industry to all out of the way to go globalization the bubble suppress investment in defense company even though specializing and the government managed to the beginning of the bubble might five investment investors out of bonds as well such as defense to be discretionary defense with defense but it would be negative investment if these US market just jurisdiction the dollar remains the reserve become the weaker but the guarantees of the government is bottom one defended defense the result of ways to against allies structured globalization consists of the international conflict leading system to war or rival regional groupings circumvention dissent. Trump has overcome any legislative attempt to boost arms themselves for harding Trump can offer weapons to generate robs and revenue contract sales only to have their efforts vetoed and so use other channels to continue arms sales. 10. Handbook and 49 programs to use arm 44 percent no reports of funding could be used in Congress direct station and military aid content numerous specific funds public oversight not possible doesn't the DoD does not vet participants in the court won't develop a legislative framing doctrine now but the plan gives legislative an opportunity to challenge Trump's attempt to circumvent durable females they win the suit referendum in 21. Later continues to sue despite the one when any court to read and to let us to use a course of political venue challenge the president and in public course will develop the true doctrine of legislators and given this sending test articulate every situation the kind of vote application would occur like the establishing doctrine courts to use the domestic case and legislative standing so collapses democracy standing at number 17 legislative standing name of Congress and political debates marriage policy like the court produce an opportunity to have a free to open and seen by the cover avoiding conference in the American simply said the decision to judicial resolve the state are quite low. Constituted in AAC has nothing to do with the marriage policy lawsuit which on the authorized from Robert Comer a mission to bring in illegal claims that might six and democratic collapses and exercise schools and impact. The hospital have 17 America's repeated world has been worse a terror war and intervention result in the American legislation instead of very weird terrorism. The party turned to nuclear back aggressive rest of their American shipping and said, "Oh, no, because only their remedy ever crisis like the world war for poverty, terror, so much generated authoritarian regime." Mark the return the terrorism regime's case. Absolves nothing vote negative presumption subletting gun suppression internally and smuggled to Mexico paying 18 cartels exploited witnesses but just go to 252,000 firearms each person in the USA expected to be sent to Mexico weapons and the cartels or gangs like Mexico corruption and problems gun direction and decisions on the effectiveness so remains high sub be strong or is difficult to track and use intermediates for detection or to the 612 is not purchased to keep intermediate by paper on behalf of someone else or because they the background check because if I people have the background guns is them is a high study found that a major with a weapon travel smuggle over land vehicles and subpoint C and legal arms still in mass to 18 two Russian dealers who sell weapon cartels in Sudan use helicopter the dealers when the racing with dealers cartels wanted to weapons to defend some of the DA that facility by Turkish middleman and subpoint 3D printing many weapons and enable economies 18 the world's first 3D printed handgun downloaded 100,000 have been posted else with it's a permanent case of violent export a lot even lost with a little effect that's all the side already by reposted the manual cultural I used to word traceability detects but last year and we have easily trace make the plastic and substitute metal detectors detect the gun to turn in when it goes by the technically know how to know quite a 3D print to get cheaper easier to rent a cost will go down to the no solvency too many all costs and small arms other countries older stockpiles and black market also FCS 1 when 70% of Ferris like when ammunition cold whereas our place is so light weapons in Germany and others for so many republics of our eastern company unloaded surplus guns to the world market black market is another slightly with property laws for commercial gains the do you want me to read nuclear impact defense now? No nuclear laundry list. Miller at 17 nuclear group limited desire going to atomic terrorist map on the highly probably the rest of the great has started would be discovered no nuclear nation take a security state about Minister of highly security developing President Herculean challenge terrorist steel AHEA the separate trigger and antennas policing after manufactured atomic large equipped shot much at a shot. And no impact on Latin American stability. No nukes hardened is 11. Latin American civil violence 11 is strongly related to poverty and inequality. Low severe violence over the U.S. a little matter little study national peace and stability mentioned in global security the proliferation of nuclear weapons terrorists no terror. Under the reason of possession of nuclear weapons. Multi-carded market there. Do you want me to read fail states? Next advantage. Okay. There's no reason they have no evidence that says that maximum matters and no evidence that says that we can actually get modeled and no to when it all causes corruption and no environmental impact occurring current 18 extended to the documented biodiversity. There's little evidence well local production alter ecosystem they know that extended over the small scale biodiversity kind of local sales of total biodiversity the kind of diversity kind of local diversity saying the same because you say elsewhere replace local loss of diversity with half local she said would be the mechanism for end of civilization it is Hollywood as nations increase the wealth of the civil population economic where circular waste products decline the cost of it is so immediately the government to act before the catastrophe definitely no impact there's too many other species that they can't solve. Okay, I'm going to finish Latin American card. Latin American countries not much history Canadian border war despite recent attention to the Venezuela Colombia border. Okay. Sorry, the card I finished at the end was the Cardenas 11 card.
Gotcha. And before cross-X, could you send out the sales pick text?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. One sec. I'm sending it. Okay, the counterplan text has been sent.
Awesome. Are you ready for cross-X?
Yep.
Okay. Besides new apps and ASPEC, there are no procedurals?
Nope.
And you read every off case?
Yep.
Okay. The future sales counterplan, you don't end any status quo initiatives, right? Or agreements?
No.
Okay. When you say future sales, does that mean you refuse contracts or refuse deliveries?
Refuse the contracts of future sales.
Okay, so everything that's been authorized is delivered.
It would stop future negotiations from happening in the first place. It's about the notification, which we think is different than the contract.
Yeah, so you don't, everything that's been notified, you deliver, but any new contracts you don't sign.
We don't negotiate it in the first place.
Yeah.
It's about negotiation.
The counterplans are conditional?
Yep.
Future sales argument, so the AF only gets jurisdiction over the contracts they cancel?
Yes, you only get jurisdiction over current sales, not future sales.
Okay, so circumvention, what's the AF answer to that? Like Trump literally, you cancel F-16s the next day.
There's a few answers. You can have a reason why it's like key for the current sale to exist, which I'm sure you'll hopefully make.
Like what?
You can also
Like
impact turn it. You can impact turn the circumvention argument, which other apps have done. There will be a few more reasons.
Wait. How could you
can have
impact
reasons
turn?
why you can have reasons why Trump wouldn't want to circumvent in the first place because of economic reasons.
Okay. These all sound made up. Like
no, like there's the amount of apps on the topic that support the increase of arms sales by decreasing current.
So your topic is a bidirectional topic in which apps say circumvention good.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Oh my. Okay.
Yeah, it's better for debate. We think that form of debate is better.
Okay, stocks. So the link is just based off of like the surprise cancellation.
Yep.
And why does that spill over to people separate from the contract, like the people canceled, like the company canceled?
What do you mean? Because we think that given the current the current system, the fact that if the federal government was just like, although like everything in the federal government right now is being used to stop to do COVID response, if the federal government just like tomorrow is like, yo, we're canceling arms to Mexico, we think that would be such a fundamental shift and a bolt out of the blue that would be sufficient to overcome the current system.
Okay. T 25%. There's no individual countries AF, right?
No.
So there's only regional AFs?
Yep.
So you have Europe, Africa, and Asia?
Yeah, and there's more. There's also process apps, like you could reduce all of FMS or all of DCS, things like that. Yeah. Human rights.
So the Russia Phil NDA, you've read this argument about like Russian military, or the impact is about Russian military modernization. Where's your internal link card that Mexico or arms sales are key?
Read more evidence. The block, the Bodner evidence indicates that it would sell weapons to everyone. We think that would use Mexico as a starting point.
Okay, so you don't have. Well, I mean, they sell weapons now, obviously. You need to win that one country is sufficient.
The more you win that they sell weapons now, the less risk there is of the AF.
Okay.
Because then it means the U.S. arms are not key to the stability of the region. It's about the ability
of Russia. About the impact, though. But okay.
Yeah, I'm saying that's not a smart argument for you to go for, though.
Okay, we'll take that.
Takes out the AF. I'm assuming to prep.
Yeah, y'all read new apps, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
740.
You said 740.
Yeah. It's sent.
I'm gonna go get some water if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Once I get an order, I'm good.
Okay. Stability advantage, modeling advantage, then A-spec, T 25%. You said new apps, it wasn't the doc, so I'm just answering new apps right there. T future sales, the future sales counterplan, the sales pick, the Russia DA, circumvention DA. Actually, let's do Russia, stocks, then circumvention. All right. Is anyone not good? Cool. All the causes have no impact because arguments that the Mexican military and police forces having armed themselves is bad because it incentivizes a strategy of militarized response to cartels. Only our condition solves us. So illegal arms to cartels are irrelevant when they can solve it through a counterinsurgency, which is the critical evidence. Even so, U.S. experts the key. Lindsay Poland, 18, illegal arrest of guns by U.S. producers to Mexican police as being criminal activities. The Mexican military is only legal imported firearms, sells weapons to police and companies. Police glue with the criminalization, strengthening organized crime, which answers all thus while all causes. 3D printing. That card's not about Mexico. They have no evidence that Mexico has a capability. The all causes of small arms was not substantiated. It's not about Mexico and not about the police forces. Yes, nuke terror. Hayes assumes to all their offense. It says that even in the past wasn't true. And right now there is financial and technical capacity among groups like Al Qaeda, ISIS, and groups in Japan, which means that once they have inroads to the U.S. and Latin America, there's incentive to develop nuclear weapons state. The Latin America impact even does not apply. It's not about Latin American war, but about this instability in Mexico causing the U.S. to be unable to fulfill its global roles. The hedge fund causing massive proliferation that goes nuclear, which you can see it impacting modeling advantage. The first two arguments have no impact, have no evidence or warrants to support them. Our OECD evidence and the AFC evidence says that Mexico is a key model across the region. It's a developed economy, and its environmental and corruption policies are both modeled by multiple countries at the region. It all causes of corruption. We solve it by conditioning. We establish judicial reform and legislative reforms that mean corruption. They cannot go unpunished anymore. Yes, environment impact. The pins on evidence specific to Latin America. It says that various tipping points mean that one species kind of cascades and kills everything else. Even so, they dropped out a specific hydro cycle and deforestation and soil erosion impacts, which this generic stuff doesn't apply to the other species stuff. The low cause doesn't make any sense because Latin America's key. T or A-spec. A-spec's bad. There's no resolution basis. Means unpredictable, aggressive, default reasonability to prevent substance crowding. It goes to bad agent comes to move the app and decent to research and normal means evidence enables their offense. USFG is an agent. And we only have to specify as far as the resolution does. T 25%. We meet the plan reduces 100% of cells in Mexico. Counterplan must impact the viability of the FMS or DCS program. DOD in 17 substantially reducing under signed international agreements. It defines the quantity decrease that impacts the viability of any FMS or DCS. Counterplan 2.7% portal 10 arm cells or not substantially make only 2.7% according to experts. SBS, we meet that. Insert this chart in the math below. This best versus quantitative threshold sucks. Bit 5 measurement error. Endemic military studies based on state relation, but they're structural based separate. And we map for all the difficulty. The differential terms of convert prices complicated by offsets counter trade. S credits 8. The data very lummy small 1 year, large next year. Zeros and full data where imports were not measured. Seconds arbitrarinity and no legal definition. Since introduction makes their interpretation inherently imprecise. Third, athletics, innovation, research, creativity, and topic education. The topic stay on these new areas. Fourth, solves ground limits is when you see it, function limits check, few advocates, advantage, diversity, and multiple generics, reasonability. Good is good enough theory across the substance. There one, the evidence is unpredictable and biased about reducing an individual contract under one major defense program. Not all of FMS, DCS, and DPS are domestic contracts too. This GAL 15 GAO review program and execution information on also in the current major defense programs. New ass, they're good for incentive for research, force the barriers to think on their feet, for sell the base. Everyone's topic breadth here and likely legitimate generic solve. Other often T future sales. We meet the plan says reduce plans and vacuums. Most objective counter interpretation. Reduce means to diminish words and phrases too. The word reduce doesn't mean to cancel, but to diminish in the context of arm cells that includes reducing future sales, die radiuses, or willingness to make reduction and arm cells premise on policy. Arm cell reduced, but we're not committed to any fixed amount. We wish to reduce future sales to decline will be apparent over time. Prefer first act flexibility. Solves the advocates defend durable reductions over time. All last under interpretation lose to future sales circumvention, and their topics obviously awful because they say because it's only circumvention good as second predictability plan meaning is a gold standard in lines of literature. We have evidence about arm cells for there are no limits or ground impact. You have function limits check cross by reasonably the future sales counterplan. It obviously links to every single net benefit. It was severed relation Mexico, pushed them towards Russia, be unpopular, and crush market confidence and get circumvented. It does not solve a strong clear signal is key perception of unseriousness and flip-flopping on various contracts waters down the signal and the political attempt to reform because it looks reversible. That's Crawford. Current sales are enough to make a massive deficit to the counterplan. They're 1.3 billion through the ongoing existing Merida initiative. That gives Mexico the ability to go along for a long time, which is the Epstein evidence is a huge time frame deficit because we said existing arm cells are causing a collapse and causing corruption. That's there's obviously some inertia to reform if the signal is not including current cells. Kind of must have a solvency advocate, key to predictability, negative positions, and reciprocal literature-based interpretations. Negative must have a advocate online with the one AC advocate permutation due to the counterplan. The app could be a future sale permutation. Do both the sales pick. It doesn't solve net benefit. The counterplan clarifies the sales won't be resumed, which means Mexico will not sign any more contracts. Does not solve the app because it doesn't have much the HR corruption condition permanent the plan, and also FMSD says generally texture and non-intrinsic firms are good to force their benefits for 2B remain solving policy comparison. I'm certain the text below permutation to both permutation through the compounds delivery in the stage of the sale can on 19% step 0 PL lower step 1 lower submission step 2A PNA development interest step 2B LOE development interest step 3 contract step 4 contract execution step 5 delivery. They can't solve without solving the FX and corruption. Latin American tipping points mean they can't solve climate anyway. Climate financing is corrupt. Actually, 15 destinations of the climate funding funds for these most vulnerable or recommend the more subscribed India, Indonesia, Brazil, Mexico, Vietnam, Asia, public money is in all cases public arch mission transparency is there's never enough the data is for the refund refuses to go to names and these conditionality is a voting issue. It comes to race development, strategic and not educational arguments, incentivizing undercover positions and eliminates clash to see time is gratitude undermines procedure fairness, disposals. Russia. No link. Mexico will acquiesce to the plan instead of switching. Katsa either solves or destroys market share. Strat forwards 126 Katsa. And both United Moscow, the middle powers can swing Washington in favor of Russia. In favor of Russia, political and France destroys trust country have business relation with Moscow, make it difficult to cut Washington and turn toward alternative sources and close yourselves and look at Moscow. While Michelle way given to the U.S. if only sanction in favor for U.S. women Katsa and shape behavior. There's no impact because Mexico is not key to Russian expansion in place like the Baltics and Middle East. Case turns to Mexican instability. It attracts some competition with Russia. That's how there's no fill in. Lack of ties. Miles 18. Russia has local relation Mexico, not commercial culture ties. Trade is all equal to goods across the U.S. Mexico border. Every 31 hours, Russia is missing small fraction of the country. Russia diplomatic interest as way is not obvious, but Russia is in game. Upper north is having cuts non military spending on Russia. Oh, in case you forgot, on the counterplans, picks are bad, meets F offense, shifts the locus debate to extraneous, unpredictable issues. Counterplans supposed to be not entirely plan inclusive. Back to Russia, sorry. Russian collapse is inevitable. Let's go to 20. Russian diplomatic terminals. It's the new sobering figures with the server force in the future. We will live in a period of depopulation. Authorities don't want to change anything. The don't can do anything. The German public mood response to crisis situation. Every plan demographics. So the Russians in the brink of extinction. The country is turning into the interoperability solves. And the Mexico can revamp their entire military, especially with big arms and small arms overnight. And the fact that Russia is about to die out means that they can't do great power conditions. Stocks. The Turkey reduction thumbs profit loss of perception or proves the paying out will just bail them out. Single deals don't link. Capital 18. Economics says any deal says must reverse portfolio. Devil Robinson 100 countries. Best customer only about 13% strong domestic make its pressure to export US export. Only the quarter of the arms produced. Stocks don't matter since he as need from the 20th century. The stock market made a small gain since 08. Market stores, but those stock market do for wages. S&P she's up wages decline. F have the correlation to be more negative than positive when it's increases the way wages decrease when the stock market rises. Well, wages rarely move. This lands. We see the stock market skewed. The stock market doesn't tell us much. Corona's causing a shift away from defense stocks. Chart 324 of government. Basically, investors departing defense just in the industry are less uncertainty, values just really stabilize. People are going to sell defense and that can do the marketing thing and profit taking, no impact economic decline, clarity 15 during and 196 diastics, everyone exterminate reveries, or twice like terminate during downturns, twice like downturns, right crisis to austerity pressure, which is cut defense crisis, of course, strategic reassessment crisis, threat prioritization, economic crisis, increase the benefit for international cooperation, releasing aid trade and investment. A recession inevitable because of coronavirus. Stocks don't solve that because it's just one safe haven. Circumvention. No circumvention. First, durable fiat solid. The resolution should not would. Otherwise, the app always loses to Trump says no. Second, Trump will give stuff away. Or 18 Trumps are actually bragging the billions in commercial arms sales to treat visitors as bringing stuff for money and opportunity. Third, doesn't think of the app because it still says about a system of accountability to Mexico. Would perceive Saudi thumbs Trump over Congress. They didn't sue him. Their cartoon 2001. It doesn't think anyone will sue Trump. Congress will has zero power and they won't do it. AFP 20 Trumps and McGriddle different ways in the power. Congress has no easy authority, phones power. Or open party only restraining Trump says also says I threat to everyone. Trump is officially a monarchy that Trump is executive orders of power grabs. He declared a national emergency divine proceedings for Congress. It's legislature forfeiting ones to keep our 66 of internal link card is terrible. It says courts are not good for democratic discussion. That obviously still happens in Congress, and not everything is a lawsuit. The plan will be a one-off, not set the precedent of overall court action. I'm good.
Okay. Sorry. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Let's talk about case for a second. Have you read any evidence that indicates that people in Mexico have not downloaded these 3D printed weapons?
Well, I think it's your burden to say that. Even so, 3D printing does not offset the entire collapse of the entire defense relationship between the U.S. and Mexico, which would incentivize reform. I think
incentivize reform. Okay, so
the conditions. I mean,
the internal links or cards estimate say one of the reasons that people are shifting towards the cartels now is because they offer higher pay and wages, and like they have benefits associated with cartels. Okay. How do you solve that?
The argument is that we make anti-cartel actions effective. The crit card and the Epstein card saying that changing the militarized, violating human rights policy enables Mexico to treat the cartels like a counterinsurgency, which allows them to adopt a more effective tactic of civilian-centric intel collection rather than decapitation strikes that takes out the cartels.
Okay, for sure. The thing is, the Grinberg card seems to indicate, actually not seems, it does indicate that there are other reasons for which Mexican military is working with cartels. It says things like that they'll defect because of Mexico's weak military. If the app makes them weaker, how will they not defect more?
That's not the app does not make them weaker. The argument is that the political reforms that the app incentivizes would lead to A, better military discipline, which is what Grinberg escalates, and B, it would make the anti-cartel actions effective. That's the internal link. That's
right, but the reason that they defect now is because the Mexican military is weak.
Well, I mean, if the
app makes them weaker, how do you solve?
That's a uniqueness. Obviously, that's a uniqueness claim. The Mexican military is weak. We don't change that very, very much. The argument is if we win, that it can more effectively fight cartels. That does not matter because there's no one.
So the card you read in the Lindsay Poland, it indicates that currently there are a lot of exports from the U.S. Where does this make the future protective claim that only U.S. weapons are destabilizing?
Well, it was the answer to the illegal causes. Is the Mexican military is the only legal importer of firearms. It means that the police only get guns from the U.S. through the Mexican military.
So you're going to defend that that the Mexican police don't get arms illegally?
Yeah.
Where does this card make that clear? This card seems to claim
the Mexican military is the only legal importer of firearms. It in turn
where does
sells
it say
weapons
that they don't get them illegally?
But it doesn't say. I mean, I guess this is a non-starter because your evidence doesn't indicate that the police get them illegally.
For a T25%,
you did read 3 cards saying the cartels get them.
Hold up. For a T25%, you've read 2 counterinterps. Which one is better?
No, they're not contradicted. They work together. It must impact the viability of the FMS and DCS program of the country, and that country must be above 2.5%.
2.7. Okay, so it has to meet both. It has to meet both of those. Well, is Mexico above 2.7% of arms?
Yeah, I inserted the chart with the math I did. It says that total 2.7% of FMS was about a little over 2 billion. Mexican FMS constituted almost 3 billion.
Okay, for sure.
That's the SAM chart, which is a very qualified source on measuring what arms sales are sent out.
We have 702. We'll start now.
Are we okay with inserting highlighting, or do I have to read it?
I'm okay with inserting highlighting.
Yeah, I can't I can't say that I'm not.
Wait, sorry, Nate. You're okay with it or you're not?
Yeah, you're fine. I don't care if you insert it.
$227.
Hey, give me 1 sec, y'all. I'm just going to shut my blinds.
I'm muted.
Yeah.
Shit, my bad. Muted. Okay. Sorry. ETOC. Okay. Did everybody get the order? I didn't get. Oh God, I'm sorry.
No,
Circumvention.
I haven't heard anything since Dan left. So
Oh shit. Okay. Circumvention to said T25%, the future sales counterplan, the sales pick, the cartel's advantage, the modeling advantage.
Do it again and slower, please.
Yes. Circumvention to said T25%, the future counterplan, the sales pick, the cartel's advantage, the modeling advantage. Okay. Not muted. Everybody's good. Great. We're not going for it. We'll concede the no link argument. T 25%. Our interpretations that affirmatives must reduce more than 25% of total foreign military sales and direct commercial sales, which is the COC evidence at the top. They don't meet. They don't reduce 100%. Our evidence is specific to the programs. They don't reduce 25% of the broader FMS and DCS program. The counter interpretation about the DoD is incoherent. The argument about having a substantial impact on the viability of a program justifies literally every affirmative, because everything could have a tangential impact on the viability of the program to continue working. There's a limit to say their interpretation explodes the topic into an endless proliferation of tiny substances can ensure that they can never meaningfully prepare for the onslaught of radically different apps. There are 21 different major categories with tons of subcategories throughout 98 different countries. Here's a list that they justify: Algeria, Tunisia, Ukraine, Brazil, India, Honduras, Belgium, Nigeria, Mexico, France, Peru, Philippines, Uganda, Morocco, Georgia, Taiwan, etc. Also, places like Poland and Japan are all places that are topical under their interpretation. The Portela evidence, I kind of entered that above. Portela is not precise at all. It's about Chinese imports, which is that it obviously does not make any sense to describe the broader program. The quantitative numbers suck don't make sense because it's try or die to have some sort of limit on the topic, because if you have a qualitative advantage, there's no way to actually quantify it for the NIG to be able to know how to be able to engage the affirmative. The argument about being arbitrary, no, it's not. Our evidence is from the most reliable source. It's from a governmental source defining the defense acquisition programs, defining substantial and reduction in the same place together. It's a duty definition. I'll send this out after this speech. GFARS and 97 major defense program program is carried out to acquire a producer requirement means reduction 20% or more than the total dollar value of contracts under the program. There's a ground to set under their interpretation core. Topic just like fill in defense, industrial lines for line size, the linear nature of the topic is overcoming linking is impossible for call smoke cases. The impact is clash, it outweighs all their offense, expanding the cases and shrinking ground force to generic design to clash to everything which hinders in-depth research. Only our interpol has stable points for argument negation, argument of refinement, which enhances critical thinking. Our offense outweighs. Clash is the only intrinsic impact to debate. All their offense stuff, I think, like discussion, lectures, reading books, but negation what makes debate distinct. All their offense about staleness is turned because they go off to go for a bunch of stale arguments because they don't have sufficient arguments. The afflexibility argument. First, our interpretation solves afflexibility. You can just read different advantages, and that gives sufficient variety. Second is that there are a bunch of topical F's under our interpretation. For example, regional affirmatives like Europe, Asia, HR, etc. Or you could do things like Saudi and the UAE affirmatives together, which would meet our interpretation. The argument of solving ground can't solve our ground offense because you don't set a topic. The combination of all affirmatives times all the weapon systems, the 250 things that we export on DCS is far too large for the negative to be able to compete. Reasonability is bad. First, it's completely arbitrary. Second, which mandates judge intervention. Second, it can't set a predictable limit for us to be able to negate the affirmative because everybody's a different concept of what reasonability is. The evidence of being bad about how it's about FMS and DSL. Yes, I'll read. They don't have flesh this out as an actual argument for why it should matter. We have read evidence from saying that it is a defense program, which means that it should definitely outweigh. Precision also outweighs because it determines what both sides can do to control the scope of the topic and what they use to base their preparation. The future counterplan not going for concede the permutation, just a test of competition. The sales pick not going for concede the permutation, just a test of competition. You should reject the argument, not the team, for all their theoretical objections because it's a new affirmative. It's key to test the affirmative. The theoretical things they've got for counterplans make it impossible for the negative fiat, which is key for flexibility. Conditionality, it's good. Our interpretation, what we did. A sub one is negative flexibility, key to test the affirmative for multiple angles. Otherwise, you incentivize 2AC sandbagging, makes it critical. B sub one is innovation. Debaters risk averse, which means that absent conditionality, they will not read a new counterplan. C is that it's logical. There is always going to be choices between different things. That means that it turns all their offense because most real world. Their offense is non-unique because of things like time, strats you, etc., or time and strats you, etc., are all inevitable because of things like T and disadvantage. This can solve our offense or theirs because it means that we can and they can force us to go for things. Now the at cartel's advantage, they solve literally none of this advantage. You can go through it, but it says that they don't solve any of it. The bullshit they say about how it's about the Mexican police forces attacking people is just wrong. It's about cartel violence in general. I've inserted a shit ton of evidence here about to prove this point, but our evidence says that they're doing things like straw purchase. They purchase people purchase it at the border, which means that they are not able to be able to solve it. The all causes no impact argument doesn't make sense because it's obviously going to cause a bunch of instability if there's a lot of cartels within the region that are selling a bunch of things. And the 3D printing argument proves that it is somewhat inevitable that there will be some sort of arms sales. Their U.S. exports argument is problematic for a few reasons. First, it says that the way that they're imported is illegally, but this evidence is not reliable. It doesn't cite any statistics. Our evidence says that that's the way that they're actually done. And things like straw purchasing are legal. The point is just that there's not a sufficient amount of oversight. Next is domestic manufacturing. Gilligan show of Latin American tradition of gun production firearms are produced by property government. Industry much of the production is equipped with military and law enforcement. Some is for private use. 7 stockpiles in Central America make it a Neville Cunnin bunkers. 11 a plethora of firearms instituted into the couple that once took place throughout the region. Lark has found the way to cartels, at least 90% are traced in Central American military stockpiles. Gangs are already finding gun production loopholes. I'm actually not going to read that card. U.S. sales are a drop in the bucket. AFSC and CG. Now the country can benefit from it. Guns manufactured by companies from the U.S. are offered to private security companies and federal, state, and local police forces. German sales demonstrate how exported arms are used in atrocities. Headquartered in Coke, so nearly 10,000 rifles. Dozens of the rifles were recovered from the Iguala Prairie police who participated in the disappearance of the Tizapa students. That proves that the AF can't solve because the other countries are sort of interoperable. With things like small arms, it doesn't matter because government can still use them for cooperating. And their evidence says that the big problems are things like extrajudicial killings, which you can do with a simple gun. And other countries just fill in, God make it all to manufacture brokers in North and South America, export firearms to South America. Spain appears to be an especially important supplier. Other important supplier. I extended the straw purchase stuff on the other page. The plan doesn't end the flow of arms to Mexico. McDonald and TOC for a 19 effort to limit actual arms will require policy to monitor. Actually, not gonna. I'm gonna scratch that. I'm gonna scratch that card. They can't solve with things like FMS and DCS because they don't seem the Trump decision to start shifting through other categories like CCL with us oversight, which did occur, and their evidence says what caused the problem. There's all causes to Mexican government. They can't solve that internal link because Mexico is a government is inevitably going to be unstable. That's the internal link for literally all this stuff that they've cited, which means that it takes it out. Muga in 16, Mexico witnesses steady increase of crime over homicide shot up by more than 20%. Media reports distribute Mexico's violent crime disputes between cartels, gangs, militia, and corrupt police, criminal violence, and cyber concert in neighborhoods, society connects to strong relationship between high crime areas and social service organization, institutional anonymity. Mexico should combine law enforcement focus on hospital preventive policy, credit crime reduction, data-driven efforts to improve lives. Now I'm going to go through a few highlightings on the first page, but remember, if we win offense on this page, it takes out the second page. It's all about modeling of corruption within Mexico. The all causes the ward evidence cites a bunch of. I'm inserting all this evidence because at least 2 judges said they would accept it. But this evidence is that drug traffickers are doing a bunch of things to continue getting weapons. That means that they're going to be unstable. This ward evidence is also about Caribbean states, and there's no internal they've isolated from Mexico spilling over. The Grinberg evidence also says that 87% of the affirmative comes from illicit arms trafficking, which is a Grinberg evidence. And there's a bunch of things like could be traced back to the United States, but there's a bunch of illegal weapons that are already cited. And it also says things like training being a big point for why officers aren't doing things properly. The Zamudio evidence also says that the U.S. plays a large role in the sale of these weapons, but also that there's a lot of illegal flow of weapons. I'm also going to read part of this card that takes out the entirety of the affirmative because I want to get the text. Zamudio, it's 18. The Trump administration indicated they will sell facilitate the growth of the already overwhelming transfer of U.S. weapons in Mexico. The term administration follows initiative with the proposed new policy designed to facilitate the export of arms and munitions by transferring responsibility for overseeing export license to the Department of Commerce instead of the State Department. They can't monitor stuff from the Department of Commerce. That's the CCL list, but that election already happened. Economic problems all caused substantiated by the Jones and Roy evidence, and the evidence is also really old. It's from 2014, which proves that there's not going to be any sort of impact that they can resolve in the first place. The second advantage, the modeling is absolutely terrible. It's not unique. The Montalvo evidence says that Mexican leaders are already working right now for things like modeling, and it's not something they can just resolve by getting rid of corruption. They don't have a uniqueness argument for why corruption makes it impossible for them to be able to continue doing. Also, they have zero evidence tying broader corruption to being able to solve the environment. They might have some corruption, but they can't stop corruption in the context of the environment in the first place. They have no evidence saying that if we were to cut off things like arms sales, we would get the broader of the Mexican government to get its shit together in the first place. Also, things like cooperating with cartels is going to happen inevitably, regardless of if we're selling the weapons or not. They also don't meet their solvency advocate at all. That's the AFSC evidence.
All right, you good?
Yeah.
Cool. Topicality, what is the prep differential the negative has to deal with between a 25% AF and a 2.7% interpretation, rather?
What do you mean the prep differential?
I guess you've made a bunch of arguments about how we explode the topic to include thousands and thousands of AFs. We've read the interpretation that you have to reduce more than 2.7% of sales. What's the differential between neg prep under 25 and neg prep under 2.7?
You can choose a bunch of small countries under interpretation, like Mexico, that are unpredictable, hard for the neg to be able to prepare to debate.
But they have to be over 2.7%, which is about,
You're correct.
I don't know, maybe 15 countries. Why is that? Why is that reason that we should just exclude all countries?
We have a bunch of weapon systems that we sell to each country. Like 2.7 is vastly insufficient. Like,
okay, so I don't really understand. Okay, so that's just, so you haven't read a case list in the context of 2.7%. So we've read arguments as well. There are about like 12 to 15 countries under 2.7%. What's the prep differential there?
The prep differential is that it's not as predictable, so the negative doesn't get as much guaranteed ground. Okay, and it's harder for the negative to be able to prepare.
The precision argument, you've defended your DoD card. It's in the context of major defense programs, which is like U.S. government procurement, and it's in the context of substantial reduction in a single contract.
I don't think that the last card that
in the
you read,
context of that contract.
I would disagree. It's talking about total dollar value contracts under the program. I don't think the evidence.
Okay, but why is that? Why is that about the resolution? The resolution, you've made a baseline argument that we have to reduce
FMS
more
and
than
DCS are major defense programs carried out to produce or require a major system.
Okay, so what EV do you think you have that says major defense programs and FMS DCS are synonymous?
I don't think you substantially made that argument in the TOC, so I didn't.
So you didn't read it. That's fine. I guess my second question about that is the baselines argument. The topic, you've made a baseline argument that the AF has to reduce at least 25% of overall FMS or DCS. Why is that the same thing as reducing 25% of a specific contract?
What? Wait. It says total dollar value of contracts
under
the program.
Yeah, of contracts in the program. If we win that we reduce more than 25% of sales to Mexico, why do we not meet?
Because it's not like a program with Mexico.
Okay, so but that's
program is referring to broader FMS and DCS.
But not in the context of that card, though. Okay. I guess case page, the stability advantage. What Ev you read about the CCL shift?
That was your. Oh, do you wait? The CCL shift, that was like we can read evidence on that.
Well,
but
can you just tell me the card?
Yeah, your card that says the Trump administration followed this initiative with a proposed new policy designed to facilitate the export of arms.
Okay, a proposed new policy. What Ev says that's been implemented, or that means that there's no checks.
I mean, it's like I'm assuming that everybody like reads the news and they can know that occurred, but I can read more evidence on that if you want.
Okay, that's fine. I guess actually that's fine. Thank you.
I'm gonna send it. It's the stocks this said.
Simon, kick out of Russia.
I say it's the Russia dissad and then stocks.
220.
Appreciate it.
Y'all good?
1 second, let me open it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, ready? Okay. On the Russia page, I'll concede the CATSA says it destroys the market share. Means that the disad is non-unique, but it takes out the case because obviously means that they'll keep selling weapons in the future, which means that the risk of the disad are lower. It won't take out the link in the stocks disad because I'll read a bunch of links that are outside of that later. The stocks disad. At the top, decline causes global war. That's Trani causes deglobalization via fleeing investment in the U.S. market. Promise weakening currency, increased government borrowing, lowering defense budget, which guarantees transition. Where up in the global assistant, the link alone turns case. No one models in a world recession. They cancel their environment impact, and obviously the alliance will fail, and they can't solve stability in world of recession because the recession is already stabilizing. Framing issue 18 is going to make a bunch of new arguments in the one ARU. If you can't immediately trace them warrants back to the 2AC, you should scratch it off your flow immediately. And defense stock line cost is formed by Rex hedge price 325. Finally, defining the stock market leader, increase the foreign investment control. Use defense got no company market funding increasing independent launch effort to combat Chinese investment in niche sector and economic claims or terror shop for the economy of the terrorist and economic closure generated set of terrorist activities to be part of the terrorist incident writ large. The line of land first they say that there's a F-35 in Pakistan supper. Doesn't the Pakistan supper? We didn't never cancel set of Pakistan. We stopped delivers, which is different with winning uniqueness, which means it disproves the brink. And the F-35 cut didn't hurt profit. Turkey already played in government, so he gave a year one in quarter 770. The move cancels 100 the Turkey would continue to invest in $9 million of life of the program with lucky market but patent winner luck said the move not impact operation person the Russian weapon not proposed given the contractor time to prepare for possible mitigation and supercharge the length. The AF is a bolt out of the blue which X competence during the COVID crisis. The next argument they make is that the single deals don't matter. The plan costs massive investor pull of defense stock, reducing export crisis and sort of an investor by the future dependability into the industry which incentivizes disinvestment takes the stock market in the short term. As a defensive stocks with only safe haven water uncertainty. That's the talk about a framing issue. This card is not about stocks but about DMA profits, which fundamentally doesn't apply in PMA deals against in the defense industry given the trade show cancellation supply chain shock gold 39. US defense sector feeling impacted quarter by the away. Look at the way what's going to lucky rate and Honeywell put a last one saying where air studies it overseeing important trade ships on work out in advance after not been insured by American regulation control in the defense industry but analysis of the disruption with any supply chain less vulnerable than the commercial sector in COVID places demand pressure on defense part of the defense exposure is key to keep share prices high. We're 20 to 329. A huge swath of the aviation fleet is going to because of COVID the air didn't harm but much of the ground fleet is then coming back. They accelerate aircraft and how demand for BA solid preferred company defense GD LMT and NOC. Next they say that it's not key to the economy. Stock market collapse caused the recession widespread pull restrictions spending collapses business confidence firms can't borrow as much to finance investment hiring risk guarantees unemployment and restricts future monetary circulation. One defense stocks are key sheet sign 9. Whether recession is hot a topic I'm going to mention with expected nearly voter rush recommended stocks a good track record defense stocks time low 6 whatever recession in a car defense stocks pace the growth of economic deter not lead to customer stock matches both defensive stocks outperforming defense less decided economic growth. Next second incentive for 18. Embrace defense industry stocks in defense sector. The stock market and department is a big military contractor puts defense stock the record high bullshit. One recent defense did not hold wave stock market cross 3 is research channel 18 respect to come research market research into the sector reduce business market and is 25 years of historical pattern classified defense industry is defensive because the budget elevated threat investment. I'll skip the fourth card. Next they say that causing shift. Now one, this card is terrible. It says that they could be bad if and only if there's a large industry disruption. Obviously that's the plan, which means that fundamentally that is not a non-unique argument but it's a brink argument for the negative and defense stocks are recession because military spending is guaranteed. The only thing that can unravel them is project cancellations like the plan Pars 322 and with defense and decrease spending contract to the major part of the contract to have our percent of the contract and the military budget the top plus the contract the factor data the contract taking years of each full and have the government to cancel the project and increase spending keep the sector healthy rather company if the COVID and the company to do well in poor condition and contractors are carrying out business usually insulated from corona cooperative 410 defense contract keep plans funding inside the opposite 10,509 location 135 49 up in closure to short term. Pending out his guidance, let military reimburse companies who payment employees because they can't work because of the coronavirus. Next, they say there's no impact. Yes, there's impact. Economic slowdown, cuts of great power war. Dresser 16, Russia attended here from the US and attempt to kind of efficient, low growth, world leader, national business, velocity, great power, feature, activity, development, the container, heavily less increase the likelihood of great powerful companies. Second, though, you're using only dyadic rifles, result in inaccurate conclusion because only diversity opportunity to look at territory disputes result this problem establish economic detriment result in diversity economy tier 10. Neglecting the link to territory diversity is related diversity opportunity available if you countries that are less in the context of territory diversity by the leader with an advantage attitude to tendency territory common human result with open manipulation exploitation. Next, the last argument they say is that recession is inevitable, but productivity. This also acts as a link. Defense stocks are key for recovery. Exports jobs insulated from deteriorating market. Thompson 327. Companies focus on military production and unusual business because the government inside customer that are insulated from deteriorating condition on commercial market. Defense sector integral nations in distributed major sort of depending on the works of the defense operated and instead of fault of the defense of one of few sectors that hold the economy resistant force driving economic recession and no coronavirus summit directly. 220 stock markets are freaking show panic to the stock of the compared to 2008. Any criticism of cutting leaning the gold cost in the global market gears to stop running banks to fortify the coronavirus that have been like this recession but come to better or if it's something possible not yet possible. There's little margin for error and the coronavirus shock won't cause a recession. That's lead 3 to 14 cause believe that showed up unless a few months was good technical recession slash his own forecast but didn't expect an official downturn or further forecast made year growth. Even when not fit they got to like more than a few months the bank expected fading a coronavirus but recover the banking market believes that will only flirt with recession.
740. Okay, 410. Makes sense. Everybody Is everybody good from order? Modeling advantage, the cartel's stability advantage, T25, Russia, stops.
Hey, sorry, I was gone for half of that. Can you start
Oh,
over?
sorry.
You're good.
Modeling advantage, stability advantage, T25, Russia, stops.
Is there a doc?
Yeah, it should be sent. Awesome. Is anybody not ready? Awesome. Extinction is inevitable in the status quo. It's the only truly existential impact because environmental collapse kills all life on Earth. Only the planet has a hope of solving. They have no evidence that nuclear war actually kills everybody. This advantage is distinct. It's about the political signal of say yes, not about cartels themselves, which are most of all causes arguments on the other page. Yes, uniqueness, the 2 and just shotguns arguments, but we have internal evidence that says that nobody cares about the work they're doing on climate because they don't think that that Mexico has any rule of law. It's a question of stopping impunity. The AFCS evidence says that they can't prosecute anybody because there's no stable rule of law or legal system. Corruption undermines accountability because there's no prosecution. The plan solves that because if they say yes, it creates a durable legal system. We have law sufficient to do that, and empirical evidence that sends a signal: stability. Prolif and nuclear terror both cause extinction. They're underselling its advantage. It's not about cartels having guns. It's about the police having guns. The 3D printing takes time. It's a question of the Mexican incentive to say yes. If we win, say yes. And it's only a question of whether Mexico government has guns because they're reforming. They can see that if Mexico reforms, it solves cartel violence because they'll adopt a community-based approach. That's the hearts and minds evidence from the 1AC that says it's based on counterinsurgency, whether it can relate to communities that stops cartels at their source because it allows things like better information sharing. Yes, legally, this AFCS evidence says at the very beginning, U.S. has the biggest external role in Mexico's militarization. Group the cards about other sources of production. One is that we have extreme amounts of leverage. The 1AC Epstein evidence says it's not just a question of arms, but defense training, the relationship itself, and the proceeds you get from cooperation, which means we can force Mexico to do whatever the F we want. Second is cross-supply interoperability. It's harder than they think. That's Shield 19 countries that debate Russia that are likely to follow through most would rather purchase from the United States for quality interoperability, total package for switching suppliers to unit to restructure the military. It's not perfect substitutes. One replace aircraft that the United States with health. Third is relations. We give them constant technical data. The interoperability stuff is true. The CCL stuff, it's under DCS. That's CFR 19 military sales or FMS commercial distinct sales articles here by the EAC or says the numeral 6 income control. They say all causes. All these things are results of corruption. The 1AC evidence says underdevelopment is a result of the government not being able to cramp down on cartels because revenue is cycled back into buying them off and not spent on development that solves accountability solves because our evidence says it would cause Mexico to be able to prosecute those people. Yes, in fact, this argument about being too old was not warranted. Leahy law caused reform, and Pierre's Harvard 15 Leahy law provides incentive to clean up and seek justice, participation, human rights organization, required training. Latin America helps activists around the globe. Market around the globe. T25%. Our counter-interpretation is that apps must defend a reduction that impacts the viability of existing FMS or DCS relationship for a country that is more than 2.7% of arms. That solves or limits this ad because there's only like 15 countries, which obviously is a sufficient amount of preparation. Any distinction is arbitrary. Also, they drop functional limits, solves limits because solvency advocates are limited and apps will lose to generic dis ads if they don't have them like fill-in. Also, there are mix and match argument and twin cross-ticks will lose to picks because nobody advocates for combining brand and countries. We are linked turn and predictability, which they said matters most. First is Portela is good. It's about Chinese exports, but it's about the experts quantification of whether that's substantial or small and contrast the two, which means it intensifying. Second, their evidence is bad. The 2AC did say this. It says it's about 25% of one contract. It's a bastardization to say it's 25% of all arms, which means they just completely taken out of context. Third is baseline impossible. The 2AC Smith evidence says every single year it fluctuates. We have no concrete data on what constitutes an arms or how much it's worth, which proves that any interpretation that's based off that is bad. We do solve ground. ASA point is 2.7. Those are the biggest countries. The BISA point is that the topic is neg leading because supply side constraints don't do anything. Third is that our interpretation is the viability of the contract, which means there's a built-in relations DA and a built-in containment DA because you have to set relations with the target country. They say clash, half ground outweighs as a starting point to innovation of that clash. Different advantages do not solve because it makes every single debate a question of yes, no, retrenchment. Even then, those apps lose the pick, and if they don't lose the picks, they're so broad that every debate becomes so unnuanced that it's not even worth reading those apps in the first place because every single app is like 3 regions app. It's not sufficient to prove a case list. Russia. They conceded CATSA means sanctions is an incentive for other countries not to be able to fill in because we're sanctioned Metro. It's another say yes variant. Stops. At the top, yes, modeling. They have no evidence that green tech is expensive. It doesn't turn hedge because the whole world is collapsing. So nobody cares. It doesn't turn terror because they still need a capacity, which only Mexico solves. The bold to the blue is not enough to collapse stocks argument. Investors don't pull out. If they haven't pulled out of Corona, they're not going to pull out now. Yes, we see capital is about profits, but the only reason they would ever pull out is because if profits were in a decline, which proves that the app is not big enough. Here's more defense exports were tiny compared to the app. Lamber, 17 commercial aerospace, airports, DCS, FMS, US sales are 226 billion. Cypri, 18 arms sales, US companies grew to 226 billion. The gold and the rule evidence assume the plan is some massive pullout. It's a single contract. They're partial, and their capacity evidence says the government is stepping in and refunding contracts, which proves they'll do that in the time of the plan. The internal link, they have no evidence that defense stocks are reverse causally enough to pull out of the scroll. The Sheets evidence says that people are not they're not effective, not that it's reverse causally indicative. The Bruno evidence and the Stanley evidence says it quotes helps, but not that it reverse causally solves or increases other industries. The 2AC evidence says there's no correlation between the S&P and wages, and if anything, it's an inverse causality. The financial system can weather stock crashes. Dudley 18, the financial system must more resilient given asset prices were like these decline significantly higher capital liquidity requirements, the baking able to absorb market without impairing this credit flows. There's no impact. Clary cites data which answers their Dresner argument, says countries are likely to turn to austerity measures. It's not only a question of diet. It's not only a question of diet, but rather the incentives. There's more incentive to cooperate because they don't have the money to fund military. Here's Dresner 14. Analysts assert that Christ will lead to force that data such as otherwise peace models 2012 is the same as 12 violence decline has not triggered conflict, nationalism, or exclusion.
220. The order, sorry, let me mute Discord. The order is going to be the stocks disad, the Russia disad, the cartels advantage, and the modeling advantage. Are we all good? Good. Okay. it is try or die to maintain economic growth, because without it, none of their impacts can be solved. How can you ensure stability within a country if you don't have the sufficient funds to ensure that people have enough food to eat? Obviously, exacerbates things like drug niches, because people need to find other ways to make a living. Things like corruption are going to be inevitable, because again, people have incentives to try to line their own pockets in the middle of massive amounts of instability. Things like terrorism get worse because there's less money to devote to things like security, and the external impact results in escalation because of things like economic lash out. Things like the environment will not be protected anymore because you have to exploit it for things like developing oil fields and profits, which means that regionally they have no ability to solve either advantage in the world of the disadvantage. So it's try or die to use defense stocks to get those back up, which flips all the arguments they're going to go further than 2AR are about try or die. Now the yes modeling argument that they're going to make doesn't make any sense. They don't have sufficient evidence saying that they are able to be able to resolve that argument. Our evidence is very, very good on why their evidence doesn't actually say that they will be able to sufficiently resolve the security sector reforms, that they will be able to continue selling. Again, they've made the argument they reduced 2.7% of all total FMS and thesis, which would obviously be a massive shock to defense stocks that they would not be able to prepare for. Our Thompson evidence says that the only reason that growth is doing so well is because of things like defense stocks. They generate a lot of jobs and employment. Gold evidence indicates that pre-made deals were already created to help sustain the defense industry from things like supply chain shocks. But pre-corona, which means that in the middle of corona, companies will be using a critical source of revenue in the middle of it. Again, proves the try or die argument. The cavalry evidence and the argument that make out why it is a drop in the bucket doesn't make sense. It doesn't assume our perception internally, but why the perception causes people to rapidly disinvest. It's about government priorities. Corona doesn't thump because it doesn't assume that it causes them to think that the government is going to be massively increasing restrictions on places like Mexico in the future, which rapidly causes disinvestment. No internal link evidence is not sufficient. Our evidence indicates that the defense stock are a sort of safe haven, but pulling out of it would collapse the broader stock market. Their evidence is not sufficient to say the status quo would result in it, because our evidence gives a bunch of reasons for why defense stocks are the thing that are driving it right now. They're a sort of haven that investors view as something they can put their assets in without having to worry about that. The Stanley evidence is just not good enough for them to win that debate. The argument they make about it being a drop in the bucket, again, I answered that above. It's 2.7%. The evidence they're saying about studies does not make any sense, because our evidence says that the sort of rapid disinvestment causes confusion within the market, which collapses the broader ability of the economy to recover, which has been our eternal link. They read another card here, but I don't think that it actually answers the warrants in the Bruno evidence they make about why health of defense stocks is critical for the total stock market from collapsing. The impact defense, there's no impact. Our evidence is a lot better than theirs. Growth is key to solve the affirmative, which means that even if we lose all that, it's still try or die for growth. But things like escalation do occur because there is diversity of pressure that apply to people, which is uniquely key in the urgent geopolitical environment that will occur in the world post things like COVID. The Dresner evidence citing data does assume that institutions are less resilient right now, i.e. the things like COVID cause economic disinvestment. But the thing that will really cause war to outbreak is a sustained economic decline, which is what happens if we do not rapidly invest in things like defense stocks. There's no recession inevitability argument. The Thompson evidence again indicates that defense stocks are something that is able to cover that. The Russian disadvantage obviously applies to Russian sanctions, but we're going for other countries to fill in the cartel's advantage. Look, the evidence they read here is beyond shitty. I don't know how you can vote for any of these cards. I've re-highlighted a slew of their evidence, and it indicates that there's a bunch of other things that result in instability. For example, the governance all cause. The MUGA evidence is not answered. They have zero reverse causal evidence, but the MUGA evidence indicates that there's a bunch of things like existing gangs, cartels, gangs, militia, corrupt police, etc. The plan doesn't get rid of that. They have no evidence that actually credibly says that Mexico's just going to say, hey, we're reforming our entire security sector system, especially since they have identified that the Russian government is the corrupt party in the first place. So they have no incentive to do security sector reform. Also, U.S. sales are a drop in the bucket. Yes, they are the largest external role in Mexico's militarization, but this doesn't speak to the way that Mexico would be able to buy from other countries in the future, which obviously means that they have no solvency for the affirmative. Yes, their advantage is about general Mexican stability, which proves that they cannot solve that. Also, they mishandled the CCL argument. I'll read the card here. There's a CCL policy shift, which means that they're inevitably going to be giving weapons. Barden 310, the Trump administration to implement new rules for America's voluntary mission, governs the major of American industry, which lobbies the change of more than a decade. The new rules which would in fact marginalize the shift oversight of all arms export to the state government, so the Congress there to be dramatically reduced restriction against weapons internationally, against oversight of where guns end up with, which means that there's inevitably going to be instability. Obviously, that means that people are going to continue getting weapons, and the existing weapons that people already have also ensure that instability is going to continue, which obviously means that they cannot solve any of this. Now, the second advantage, again, it's not unique. The evidence they have is from 2015, which begs the question of for all why there are scenarios where the impact hasn't happened yet. But this evidence is that Mexican leaders are working really well by tackling corruption and promoting greater government responsibility and transparency in the first place, which is the key internally they've isolated to things like the environment. They have zero evidence indicating that is not true right now, that it will decline right now, or it will never get fixed because Mexico is still going to be perceived as a corrupt agent, or the things about Mexico already trying to develop their own credibility obviously proves it's solved in a status quo.
409.
Card doc. I'm sending out a CCL card.
Right. It's going to be modeling stability, the DA. Anyone not good? Awesome. Extinction is inevitable in the status quo from the coming destruction of the entire global environment, which they have no impact even to, which means it's try or die for the affirmative, because the negative at no point in the debate has read a card saying nuclear war would cause extinction, but the pins on and deforestation impact cards say that all life on Earth would collapse in the world of environmental destruction because it would destroy the biosphere, which is the foundation for all human life. Even if they win 100% of the DA, the plan is your only chance you have. Voting F is the only way to save the species, and preserve the lives of future lives, which are trillions and trillions times bigger than the status quo. So even if they win even if they win, there might be a big nuclear war. Extinction is inevitable in the next maybe 50 or so years if you don't vote F, which is a categorical reason that risk calculus flips our way inevitably. The modeling advantage proper. They have read no evidence to beat all of ours that says that this substantiates what we have said. First, is that non-unique argument. They have spotted us in the other advantage that corruption is high now, i.e., there's a refunding, the funneling back funds through cartels and the government's cooperating with them, which proves that the corruption argument we've made on this advantage is unique. They say the impact should have happened. Yeah, environment is obviously long term. They say Mexicans taxing corruption. Now, the first card in the advantage says that they are passing laws, but our argument problematizes this and says that the fact that they're corrupt proves that they're not going to be able to influence this because corporate and political interests outweigh it, which is substantiated by the all you need to stuff. They can see that corruption is high in the status quo because this card connects corruption to the inability to solve the environment. They say we don't have any evidence where it will be solved. The AFC evidence is really, really good. It says that the plan reduces the impunity rates for corruption, makes government officials accountable because it sets up judicial and legislative mechanisms for solving corruption because the U.S. important. The U.S. has so much leverage. Will be on the other advantage. They say the perception of solving is never. That's not true. We will win a corruption ski. They say status quo solves obviously doesn't, which is proven by the unique stuff. I said the stability advantage of proliferation in demons does not exist in the debate. It goes nuclear because the U.S. will not be able to reassure allies, which turns the same to actually the same impact to the disadvantage. They say we have no evidence here. Yes, we do. The governance is not on all cause because for two reasons. This doesn't implicate the other advantage. Second is we have two reasons that the none to all costs apply. First is the say yes argument. Mexico will reform post-AF because they know that it's not the U.S. relationship and the U.S. defense equipment they get is so important to them. It's not just the cartels will have guns, but that literally the Mexico will reform their strategy to be able to beat cartels. Second is the police argument. It's not the cartels have guns, but that the police have guns, and the way they're doing that now through exports is bad. That they would drop the hearts and minds argument that the plan leads to a more effective counterinsurgency strategy against cartels' responses to take them out more effectively through civilian operations. All the other stuff about buying doesn't matter because they dropped the interoperability card saying that they can't fill it, and the Leahy Law and Pierce card saying the Leahy Law is empirically effective at solving corruption in Latin America. Now the stocks is that proper. The only real impact articulation in the 2 Rs that the U.S. lashes out. That won't happen. Subpoint A is incentives flip the other way. Decline causes austerity measures, which makes rivalries more likely to terminate because countries don't have the budget to fund aggressive military measures, which is the clarity evidence. Subpoint B is empirics. Net peacefulness in 2012 is the same as 2007. That's Dresner, which is their author. That should broadly make you question the capacity for declining revenue to make countries more hostile or to access terms case. The first argument is diversionary pressures. Clarity is better. Countries will cooperate because they don't want to deal with both war and a slowing economy. Trump is not totally irrational, and no, it would only hurt him to lash out when people are already unhappy, given that he's the America first president. COVID proves most of our arguments, not theirs, because any distinction between the status quo decline in GDP and decline after the plan is arbitrary. Obviously, no one is fighting now, and there's no evidence to back up this claim that institutions are weaker. Dresner says nationalism did not increase in 2012. I forgot to do this on the page, but the CCL argument, they dropped the argument in the 1AR that it's under DCS, which means that the plan's reduction of DCS durably fiats through the CCL thing because they've run over into the country. Now back on this head, sorry about that. They say turns case. First is gut check. They have never read a U.S. econ spills over card. This is a justifies argument because the 2NR had about 30 seconds of new articulation in the swath of the environment stuff, but their turns case doesn't make any sense in the context of the environment. A, they haven't read the arguments about the environment of the argument, and B, it's about global instability. Second, our internal link is more specific. Corruption occurs because officials have impunity. Even if those officials are poor, they still be sent to jail in Mexico, which is all we need to win. Third is COVID disproves most of these democracies are just completely flipping out and defunding warming initiatives. There's no war why clean tech is more expensive. Now the link debate proper. They said such a high threshold. The DA is basically 0%. They say that they spot this that they need to win the link, that the perception among companies that the USG is going to fully pull out of all defense initiatives forever. But they dropped countervailing measures, which takes out the confusion and perception argument because if the government can solve COVID, if they're right, the defense stocks are a safe haven during during COVID. That obviously outweighs one cancellation in Mexico, so the government can obviously reassure them things like bailouts and public statements, especially when they spot us that A, defense stocks already are safe haven and somewhat resilient, and B, the threshold is fear. The U.S. government totally pulls out 2.7% is not massive because the defense industry is not just arms sales to Mexico. It's one country of one section of a massive industry. They dropped the aerospace argument that massively outweighs DCS FMS, and they dropped the Pentagon phone argument. They have to win perception, which is such a low threshold. It's really dumb that all defense planners just flee. They're not that stupid that they won't reach back to the government and just reassure themselves, given that aerospace outweighs FMS and DCS in the first place.
Good debate.
Good debate.
Great debate, yo.
Good debate.
Judges need a card doc.
Yes.
Okay. The AF card doc should be sent.
Nade card doc is sent.
Af, what's the card that says the plan causes the more rigorous enforcement of like corruption laws in Mexico?
The 1AC AFSC evidence. It's
Can you
about
say
stimulus.
that again?
AFSC 16.
All
It's
right,
about like
cool,
the
thank you.
investigative mechanisms.
Sure. I think we're in, if the other judges are here and around and stuff. Is everybody here?
Yeah, everyone's here.
All right. I can do it. Congratulations to everybody for reaching the semifinals of the TOC. You all should feel exceptionally accomplished. The decision is a 2-1 for the affirmative.
Okay, I thought this was an excellent debate. Congrats to both of you. I thought that I came down on the affirmative side for every argument on the case except for one. And that argument, I don't think there's a very high risk of the DA. I thought the best mitigation that the affirmative has on the DA is actually the impact level. But to me, you know, I just like, at the end of the day, I couldn't find the CCL argument in the 1AR. And if I have that argument clearly flowed in the 1AR, then I think I would definitely vote affirmative. But and it's like possible I just made a mistake. I don't think it was a problem with the online format or anything like that. If I made a mistake, then I just made a mistake. But I was thinking about it as just like, if I don't have this argument in the 1AR, it's like, even if everybody else agrees that you made it, I can't, I feel like it would violate just like the integrity of my judging to give you credit for an argument that I thought was new in the 2AR. And I think that argument is very damning for the AF if true. It's like, at least from my perception of judging, it wasn't even really an ambiguous claim. Like after the 1AR, I was just like, he dropped the CCL argument. And, so like, it's definitely possible that I made a mistake, but if I made that mistake, then I apologize to MBA because I thought you otherwise debated it extremely well. And I really thought that your explanation of the remainder of the case was very, very strong. I don't think that Iowa City, you kind of really challenged the solvency claims for the AF. So like, you're pretty good about like identifying a lot of alternate causalities and so forth in a lot of their different harms evidence, but MBA has consistently advanced reasons why they solve or reasons why status quo efforts are insufficient that I do think are supported by their evidence. So barring the CCL argument, I would think that the risk of the case was very high, but it's like really tough for me to think of a world in which if weapons continue selling, then why like the application of the hollow application of Leahy law makes any sense. So to me, that's kind of the issue. I felt like Iowa City is doing well enough on like the link and internal link parts of the disadvantage. I felt like the impact part was very weak. The quality of your impact evidence was very weak. So I don't think the risk of the DA is extremely high, but at the same time, there's something there. There's at least a claim about, even if there's not an impact to a crisis per se, there's a sustained economic downturn increases the risk of revisionism. So kind of data on like the initial crisis less likely, which I thought was enough to give them some credit for the impact. But I thought it was an excellent debate. I just couldn't get around the CCL argument at the end. I thought otherwise I would have voted out. But I'll be happy to answer any questions after the other two judges speak.
Nate, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go. Alright, so came down a little bit differently. I think I'm sort of with Heidt in that I think I'm pretty aff on some case stuff. I'm actually, this ended up being, I was the last one in, and I spent a lot more time thinking about the case than I thought I would, because I was like pretty sure I was just like decidedly aff on all of this like warming modeling stuff, and then I read a bunch of cards, and it like pretty seriously mitigated this position for me. I think the negative is pretty right, that like you have a card that like they might do the reforms afterward, and you have a card that like those reforms might be good for the environment, but like it's actually on the DA. There's a neg arg that's just like there's not really a good sufficiency like you solve this argument, and that like pretty substantially lowers the risk of the case for me, because I go back through and it's like I'm not going to zero your advantage when the neg does not have a card on it. Like there's just not a single piece of evidence on it. And like the impact calc in the 1AR and the 2AR on it is exceptional. So like it's there, but the case is lower than I anticipated it being. The second advantage, the most of this fill-in stuff, I'm just pretty aff on like those things go to the cartels, which we solve with a Hearts and Minds campaign. Like they shift the Mexican government strategy to do with cartels and militias. That solves it, which means even if all those things like buy more guns or get them illicitly, that doesn't matter because they solve it. I agree that there is some instability they do not solve, which is like some stuff about like the economy slowing down and that Jones card and a couple other things, but it's not a significant dent on the advantage. I just have the 1AR reading the CCL as DCS card. And so I just kind of think that they solve it. Is the short version is like I had the card in the 1AR. And also the 2R reads a card on it. So, you know, I'm gonna give the leeway on it. The DA. I think the turn-based debating on the DA is exceptional. But the actual like econ war debating on the DA is just not that good. Like I'm pretty aff on recessions are at least as likely to make people cooperate as they are to fight, which like messes with some of this turns case stuff in a way that I think the 2AR is like pretty correct in observing. The other thing is like, damn, like I'm just not sure if there's a great internal link card. Like I just can't find a card that says the AF would destroy the defense industry. Like you've got some cards that are like when they cut exports, the industry reacts negatively, and you've got great cards that the industry is key to the economy. But the neg link or internal link card that's like the shock the AF causes is enough to destroy the whole industry. It's just not really there. And like that combined with like limited external impact and an impact card that doesn't say extinction, it says like big war. And like the 2AR and the 1AR are both like, that's not the same thing as actually killing everyone, means that like pretty mitigated advantage, but there, and then like a not that impacted out, but definitely extinction prolif thing on the other advantage, bigger than the DA. That's my decision. It was an excellent debate, though. I thought you all handled the case. For this being like a new app, I thought you all debated the case just astonishingly well. I loved this. I think a slightly different Ev set on the DA, and like you've maybe got me.
Okay, so first, I mean, I'll just echo what they've said. Iowa City, you all are great. The debate in Blake Finals where I judged you and you went like one off China deterrence was awesome, and it was one of my favorite debates all year. So congrats on a great season. I voted F because the environment advantage outweighed the DA. The reasons I thought the environment advantage was big. One, 2NR coverage and the lack of like a sustained negative response. The 2NC and the 2NR was very assertion heavy, but not very warrant heavy. No Ev was read. The 2NR only spent like 30 seconds and had like 3 full sentences. 2, it is literally try or die because no impact defense. No one disagrees it will cause extinction. And I'm really, really good for this style of arc that's like magnitude over whatever. We have a card that says extinction and you don't. I feel that the lack of a magnitude or time frame kind of thing in the 2NR was a missed opportunity. Obviously, the angle you want to be taking against environment type impacts is that it takes forever and that the economy crashing in the short term matters more. 3, no one said anything about cross applying anything on the stability advantage. So I did not do that. I will say that a lot does not seem responsive, including the CCL thing, at least partially for me, because, and I think MBA could have been a little bit better at illustrating this, but MBA did say that it's the say yes, the condition argument that solves corruption and reforms the system, not necessarily the guns. So like you have a bunch of pretty solid ev that just says there's like a million guns everywhere and they can get guns really easily, and cartel violence, or the cartel's always going to try and do violent stuff or undermine stability in Mexico. And like maybe, but the AF has been consistent at saying it's not about the guns. It is about them accepting the condition and doing positive reforms that generate human rights and fix the brokenness of the system more broadly. So even if more guns get sold through the CCL, if Mexico says yes to the condition on DCS and FMS sales, then it would seem like they would do those external reforms as part of the say yes condition, regardless of the number of guns. And so they at least solve the environment. But again, like the 2NR has to say, by the way, this also zeroes the environment advantage if you want me to care about that, because I'm not going to do cross applications for you. And I don't think, I'm not going to do that. I also agree with Nate that the 2NR reading a card about this does seem to justify a 2AR response. And yeah, I think that the AF did have that card that said it was DCS. I agree with the other judges about the reasons why the DA is smaller. I think that the AF utilized impact defense pretty well. I think the 2NR was not as good as it could have been on yes, economy impact, and lost some of the warrants, lost some of the referring to authors that was in the earlier speech. I think the 2AR on decline does not cause diversion, and we have two good pieces of ev about scholarly studies and statistics was pretty good. And then also I think the link defense that the 2AR had was also pretty reasonable, that it's like, hey, there isn't a spillover card that says this is going to zap the whole defense industry. Insofar as the AF does matter, it is insulated because of the countervailing pressures that COVID is causing. So if the neg uniqueness ev is right, that the defense industry being like the silver lining is saving everything, then that will suck up the negative blow of the AF. And it's like, it is true that there is not a spillover card that is that good on like, this makes everyone in the industry freak out, because it is just like one deal. I think that's everything. But yeah, it was a great debate, and I'm sure you all have some questions.
Thoughts on topicality? Like, would that have been better? Dan, I know that, sorry, I should have checked your paradigm for the reading evidence thing. So that's my, but yeah, do you think topicality would have been like better given problems with the neg strategy in general, or like?
I'm not crazy. Like, I know there's that like video of me going for T against some AF, but I'm not crazy about T against new AFs, especially AFs that have plans that do seem to be not trying to dodge that much ground. I don't know. Like, I thought the AF Smith card that says you can't quantify stuff was really good. And I also thought it mattered a little bit less. So it's not just like arbitrariness, but I think that card means, you can't prove a violation just because so much of it is uncounted or double counted or illicit or whatever. But I am not a fan of T substantial on this topic. So I don't know. I also am not crazy about a 2NC on topicality without evidence.
Okay. Yeah.
I think, yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, you finish what you're saying.
I was just going to say, it's not like impossible for you to win, DA in case. I would have wanted some more talking about the environment advantage and probably some impact defense, because, it's an environment advantage.
Sure.
I'm like, I haven't thought about T that much on this topic, and I haven't thought about T substantial that much ever. But my instinct is that you made the right decision, just because, and it's like, to be fair, this would have been a T debate that was 100% about card quality, because they're reading like indicts of the idea that you can quantify it and stuff, and I read 0 T cards. So all with a grain of salt, but it does seem like you were, I don't know, it's like the advantages are pretty bad. Like, I understand the impetus when you're looking at this AF to be like, we can beat the case and win our DA. And like I think that instinct is, at least like intuitive. I kind of thought that one place the block would have been better is like you back down pretty quick on like your environment defense isn't specific to Latin American wetland. If you'd gone there and been like, bro, who cares? Like it indicts the entire idea of invisible tipping points. Stuff dies all the time. Nobody cares. Your soil terminals from like the 90s, and these cards are written by psychos. Like I thought you could have sat down and like been like a little bit obnoxious about environment impacts being stupid, and then being like, oh, at worst, this shit's like 1,000 years away from us, and you would have been like well served on that advantage. And I think that would have been fine.
Yeah, I don't think that T was a winning strategy. I don't think you would have won if you had gone for T. I thought the strategy you went for is, not bad. You needed a little bit of different evidence on the DA, I thought, and then obviously like some like more responsive evidence against the environment advantage.
Okay, so also for like beating the hearts and minds argument, because like I think I like misunderstood the advantage like during the debate. So like if I'd taken out that argument, would that have made the other solvency like presses like more like weighty, I guess?
I just think
because it's like they solve the alt causes you're describing, because your thing is like guns keep going to the militias, and they're like, that doesn't matter because we'll beat the militias.
Okay, so
like they solve the thumper basically.
Yeah.
I think you hit a wall of diminishing returns pretty quickly. It's like after the second card that's like there's a million guns everywhere. It's like reading cards 3 through 10 on, hey, there's a million guns everywhere, and like alt causes, whatever. It's like it's not getting you that much. So a greater diversity of warrants would be awesome. And yeah, like because I mean the like human rights reform, anti-corruption stuff, it's like that is also not new. It's like the US has been trying to tie aid money to reforms of the judicial system and stuff for over a decade, like since the Bush administration. So it is not just like, and like, Aiden's thing in the 1AR is it makes us better at counterinsurgency. So it solves it's like, yeah, the US is great at counterinsurgency. If there's one thing we've learned from the last 20, it's like, no. So, I mean, none of these premises are airtight, and you can make fun of them pretty easily. I just think you've got to focus on, not getting bogged down and like really hammering home the one thing that you just like keep saying. It's like all causes, and just answer the other parts of the solvency claim.
Okay.
It's also like the sort of like inverse of the question that's like these cartel militias are so strong that they're gonna like collapse the government and turn it into a failed state. Ergo, we need a hearts and minds strategy to like polite our way into defeating them. Is like those are two descriptions of the world that are not easily reconcilable with one another, especially if that picture is colored with 100,000 light machine guns and no regulations, and that advantage too is the government is so relentlessly corrupt they don't have a criminal justice system. Like I kind of think that you can like reassemble this narrative in a way that is very unfavorable to the case.
Okay. Okay, this is like also like a really weird question, but since they like made the like clarification that they reduced DCS in like the 1AR, like how would it have played out if I was like new T violation? Like I'm like pretty sure that the evidence is pretty good on CC. No, nah, okay.
No, it's just like, come on, like we'd have like you don't want to do that. Like the 2AR is going to be like, I'm going to say everything right now, and you still have to deal with like all the T debating that's happening on the other page, because they're going to be like, over there we said arbitrariness and unpredictability, and we said interrupts without an intent to define were bad, and like it's just going to be, and like they're going to do every shady version of that where they like extend one word from the other T page and then reinvent the entire argument to deal with your violation because it's like new in the 2NR, and we're all going to sit here and be like, well, I guess it's just the 2AC again. Like there's apparently no new anything rules anymore, and like
All right. Oh, one last question and then I'll stop. I guess it's hard to say, but do you think like we should have extended Russia instead? Because like I like right after the round I was like we should have done that, because like But like, I guess it's hard to know because you don't know how good our ever there is on that. I kind of answered my own question. Never mind.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just saying, I thought like you could have done it. Like, I don't know. Like CrossX was like funny, and they're like, oh, what, Mexico? But it's like, I don't know. Like, sure. Like you've got I don't know. I don't know what the box looks like. Like if you've got a Mexico's key to Russian influence card, then like let them have it. Like let's see if they have one. Like, you know.
Okay. Good. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks
Of course,
everyone
yeah.
for judging.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yep.
Good luck, y'all.
Nice judging.
Good luck.
Good debate. Thank you.